We all have our opinions that we believe as truth on why the A's left Oakland. We were all wrong, all of us, today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. I am your host, Booney, one name, all passion. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day. I'm from the Bay Area, and I've been a diehard A's fan since 1981. This isn't just another A's podcast. This is the most informative and insightful show on the A's, period. We cover the A's every single day, breaking down games, delivering the latest team news, and giving you deep, thoughtful analysis you will not find anywhere else. If it's happening in Sacramento or in Las Vegas, we have got you covered. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. And please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button wherever you are following the show. This episode is brought to you in part by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. When you think of the authority on the Oakland A's, their storied past, and their controversial move to Las Vegas, one name rises above all others: Zennie Abraham. Zennie is just not a media pioneer. He is a cornerstone of Oakland's identity. He created Oakland Focus, the city's first blog, back in 2004, blazing trails in digital media long before many understood its potential. His journey from urban planner to media mogul is nothing short of extraordinary. With a BA in urban planning and economics and a master of city planning from UC Berkeley, Zennie has always understood the heartbeat of cities, especially Oakland. But Zennie's genius doesn't stop there. He is the founder of Zennie 62 Media, one of the most growing media networks in the Bay Area, encompassing over 100 blogs and hundreds of social media outlets. His YouTube channel, a first-generation partner since 2006, is a treasure trove of insights, featuring interviews with mayors, council members, and decision makers shaping the future of the Oakland A's. While many speculate, Zennie knows his influence extends far beyond Oakland, having covered events like the NFL Draft since 2005, San Diego Comic-Con, CCS, Las Vegas, and TechCrunch Disrupt. Zennie has become a trusted voice in sports, technology, and culture. His work with the Oakland Raiders, serving as an economic advisor under Mayor Harris and leading Oakland's Super Bowl 34 bidding committee, cemented his reputation as a visionary leader. Zennie Abraham is more than a journalist. He is a force of nature. As the founder of Zennie 62 Media Corporation, he turned a personal passion for vlogging into a powerhouse media company that combines content creation, reputation management, and cutting-edge technology. He pioneered a video-to-blog system that transforms news into accessible, engaging content for audiences worldwide. With over 300,000 Instagram followers and countless accolades as a speaker at major conferences like CES and NFL events, Zennie's reach is global, but his heart remains in Oakland. He has dedicated his career to telling the stories that matter, shining a light on complex intersections of sports, politics, and culture. Before we get to the conversation with Zennie, follow along closely and you will be beyond shocked at what you learn. This is a two-part conversation. Tomorrow, we will cover Las Vegas and the media's hand in this whole issue. Today, we cover Oakland's leadership in government and why the government was 100% at fault and to blame for the A's departure to Vegas. We get right to the core of the issue as I ask Zennie, what was the single event that led to the A's departure?
The linchpin year that Oakland screwed up was 2021. In 2019, it was when, specifically October 11th, is when Gavin, my friend in California,
Yes.
Governor Gavin Newsom, signed SB 293 Skinner, the designer tax increment financing legislation, into law specifically for the A's after ICE hold Dave Cobble on the 4th of April 2017 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon during a phone call. And then I sent him the email that he was going to have to use redevelopment or tax increment financing to build affordable housing. He subsidized it. He said it wasn't available, so I showed him where SB 628 Beal by Jim Beal was created, and that was signed into law as, again, September 29th of 2014. Now, smartly, as I said to you on the phone, David did a genius thing. He worked with Nancy Skinner and Libby Schaaf, and they created two pieces of legislation. The most important one was SB 293 Skinner. Now, when you do that, the first thing you're supposed to do is call the county of Alameda and set up a meeting, because why? You are going to be using tax money that they are responsible for doling out or administering for your redevelopment project, or you got to get meetings, you got to get their input. They didn't do that. Talking about Libby, Betsy Lake, who is the assistant city administrator in charge of the project. They brought on Marley Mayburn later, but she had no idea how to do redevelopment at all, okay? They didn't do any of that until Rob Manfred, May 27th of 2021, said, hey, you know what? We're behind the eight ball. We're going to start taking a look at Las Vegas. And then Libby put out a press release saying, well, we're going to start meeting with the county of Alameda. And I'm thinking, you didn't do anything all this time? Absolutely ridiculous. You have the situation where Libby, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, and the great California Senator Nancy Skinner joined with Dave Cobble to get SB 293 Skinner passed, and they don't use it? And then get this. Here's the kicker, my friend. April of 2023, on the same month that the Nevada legislature approved the Athletics to relocate, guess what's buried under the database of the Athletic publication?
What's that?
An incomplete draft infrastructure financing plan for Howard Terminal done by Century Urban, who finally got their numbers right, because I pointed out how they were wrong the first time, and said that there was going to be a subsidy of $2.5 billion. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. $2.5 billion after Molly Mayburn gets up on 2021 and says, well, we're only looking at $400 million. And I said, that's wrong. And I tried to tell Lauren Taylor that, and he goes, well, it's right. And I said, why? He says, well, the consultant, we have the consultant. I said, the consultant has 8 years of experience. I have 37.
Right.
I'll take mine over that any day.
Yeah.
I mean, give me a break with this stuff.
Oh, man.
And what I hate is that the fans normalize government stupidity. And that was when we dropped the ball, because we didn't have a true czar in front of it.
What would you say to the angry Bay Area Oakland A's fans that are full of hate right now and the Bay Area media? Second to that, that seems to be causing some of this divide. What would you say?
I would say direct your anger at Oakland government. Ask them for a full explanation of why SB 293 Skinner was not implemented, because that has not been answered. That legislation was designed for A's fans. If you think about it, the question has never been asked, or excuse me, never been answered. A's fans deserve an answer. Why is it that you have a study that projects a $2.5 billion subsidy sitting there in the database of The Athletic on the same month that the A's are getting approval to move to Las Vegas by the Nevada legislature? That is what A's fans need to ask. Why is that study there? Why 2.5 billion? Why was it so late? And what the heck is going on with you guys that you didn't get your act together to have it done before March 31st, of 2021? Those are the questions, singularly, the A's fans should be asking and demanding answers to right now. They're upset that part of their way of life has been ripped away. And that is a big, big problem. But the custodians of that way of life in all cities is government. For some particular reason in our society, we love to downplay the role of government. But the fact of the matter is that government rules every aspect of our life. It is bigger than the private sector. And when you try to take it away, if you ever take economics courses, they teach you that GDP is C plus I plus G plus NX. The G is government, okay? All right? And the government's like, it doesn't matter if it's state, local, or federal. You don't just rip it out and say it doesn't matter. And yet there are people who do it every day. I'm thinking, hey, are you insane?
Yeah.
And then they don't do the right thing in terms of asking for a government that operates better. We used to, but lately we don't.
This episode is brought to you by Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they are free of substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Whether you are recovering after a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed wheat protein and pre-workout deliver real results. Visit justingredients.us/Bryce-Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your order. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. This episode is also brought to you in part by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now, I budgeted smarter and saved more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Manage money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
The biggest failure of us as a city was not getting that project done. Okay? The job of economic development is to do that project because it is the greatest representation of your culture, of your city. It's an export culture that brings, what is it? It brings other people from other cities to go to your place. I mean, how many times I would say, you know, I love this in Oakland because I'm tired of being in San Francisco. It's kind of like import replacing, which is a term in international economics, right? And region, you're saying, hey, look, let's build this so we don't have to go there anymore. That's been Oakland's history. Let's have these great restaurants so we have to go to San Francisco anymore. Right. We didn't get it done when it came to a ballpark. We failed. And we failed because we didn't have a government and an electorate that was singularly focused on getting it done. And unfortunately, that came because of strong mayor. If we had maintained our council manager form of government, and if you think about sports during the time of the council manager form of government until 2000, 1999, when it shifted over with Jerry Brown, guess what? Right. We got our sports facilities rebuilt. We got the new arena, the refurbished one, arguably it really was really brand new, that later hosted 5 Warriors NBA finals, okay? We got that done. The only thing we didn't get done was a convention center. Like on a par with Moscone Center, we were still crying for. Then we turned to strong mayor, and now everything is hyper political. And guess what happens? We don't have the Henry Gardners that were there from 1983 to 1991. We have a turnover of chief administrative officers, which used to be our city managers, as short as a year with Ed Reiskin, my friend who once ran the San Francisco Transit Authority. All right. Now he's vice chancellor at the Santa Barbara down there. So my point is that we became a revolving door for administrators. And guess what? We lost our institutional memory, killed it for how to do redevelopment. Why? Because Jerry Brown got rid of it in 2011. Right. Got rid of it. Boom. And then between the 2011 and then late 2014, specifically September 29th of 2014, when SB 628B was signed into law, we got enhanced infrastructure financing districts, which is a son of redevelopment, okay? During that gap, we had departures, not just us, but many of the 394 offices in the state of California redevelopment were killed. Yeah. Those folks had no place to go, all right? So now, when it comes to being able to use tax increment financing without the requirements, like you have to identify blight and all that, it's easier to do. Guess what? Oakland doesn't use it, and all don't use it, but 8 cities in the state of California. 8. Right. Now, what's the significance of that? It's huge. Why? Because if I say to you, hey, by the way, let's build a ballpark, because San Francisco used it too. The whole idea about Pac Bell being privately financed, that's a misnomer. It has public money involved in it, okay? Okay. Hold on a second. It's important to understand that, I'll say this because I have another question, but it's important to understand that redevelopment allows you to take property tax money that's collected.
Yes.
And say, instead of it going in the Oakland case, $1 is split between BART, AC Transit, the flood control district, EV Mud flood control district, all right, and the school system, and the county, and the city's own general fund, all right? The city of Oakland only gets 70% of that. But when it's a redevelopment area, the now public financing authority, as we called it, then redevelopment agency, gets the whole dollar.
Gotcha.
The whole dollar. And then you write your plan that we have to write an infrastructure financing plan, okay? It's a very powerful tool. Yeah. And if you read the law, you can rebuild a city or build a new one.
Zennie,
And my point is that was the key. That was the reason. We didn't have that place people wanted to be at.
this episode is brought to you in part by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Supply House, whether you are in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you will find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you will always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code S-H-5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. You've had a lot of criticism of Mayor Tao. A couple years ago, she said there was a significant statement she made about Howard Terminal being, quote unquote, fully entitled. What does that mean?
Fully entitled means that you have your development agreement signed and ready to go. We weren't even close.
No, huh?
No. All right. So for her to say that, that's what she used the bully pulpit. This is what I didn't like about what Shang would do. She would use her bully pulpit to just spew out lie after lie after lie, knowing rightly that the public didn't know enough detail to know that she wasn't telling the truth.
Right.
You know, she did it. It's like totally wrong the way that she did it. They did it to the A's. They did it to Dave Cobble. He hated it with a passion, and I don't blame him. And it's the wrong way to engender trust with somebody you're supposedly negotiating with, who's been a storied member of your city for decades. All right, but that's what she did, and that's what her staff did with Lee. What's her name? Here's chief of staff. They were really awful to them for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
We don't do that with business. You have other cities that so want sports organizations. They are nice. They do what you do when you're dealing with any business, large or small. You roll out the red carpet because starting a business, I don't care if it's a kid with a lemonade stand or Jerry Jones and the Cowboys or the owners of the Tampa Bay Rays or John Fisher. You roll out the red carpet for them. Period. Because they're business and you want them in your city.
To follow up on that, obviously there's been a huge divide between the fans and ownership, and the fans completely 100% blame Major League Baseball and John Fisher. If you say anything otherwise, you're banned from this city in so many words.
Or you get a death threat like me.
Yeah, Jesus.
Seriously.
Critics have pointed to political dysfunction and slow progress in negotiations as factors in the A's departure. In your view, how much of the responsibility lies with city leadership versus
100%.
ownership decisions?
100%.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking about all this happening in the middle of a pandemic. We're talking about what we start off talking about, the need for a ballpark, right? Which goes back to the Giants building, which provides a built-in competition for the A's.
Right.
No, people don't realize that. The Giants are sitting over there with a storied ballpark, which has been a tourist attraction, and it's right next to Oakland, and it's in Oakland's face.
Yeah.
And yet we act like it has nothing to do with this entire situation. It has everything to do with it.
Right.
How did it get done? It got done because government laid the appropriate groundwork, provided $40 million of tax increment financing, redevelopment revenue to help out, and made other the clearings of the way to make it happen. and it did, and it transformed that area, which used to be under Barcadero Freeway.
Yep.
Used to work over there, to what it is and it has been today, and through its glorious period through the first part of the 21st century. And so that showed right off the bat what we were not getting done. And it was to anybody who cared about Oakland like myself, it was embarrassing. I was second deck in what we used to call Packbill Park.
Sure, I remember.
On the side, I call it the water side, on the edge there, where you can basically see right over to Howard Terminal.
Right.
And so for a long time, everyone thought, God, it would be great for A's to have a ballpark right there, because we could then just thumb our nose at the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, right? Okay, how fun would that be? And
good question.
That constant desire, all right, has been there, and it gave an impetus to Howard Terminal. I mean, that's what happened. That was really what was driving John Fisher and Dave Cobble when Dave got hired in 2017.
Okay.
That dream of having an answer to the Giants. And you have to remember, has A's attendance been subpar all of these periods of years? It has been, but think about it. The periods of years we're talking about, for the most part, I mean, you can make an argument through the 70s. I had an argument about that with Guy Saperstein years ago.
Okay.
But in particular, and I say this again, in particular, that argument was put on steroids when the Giants built their ballpark. It really hurt us. Again, it goes back to the simple fact that we're talking about what I started talking about initially. We don't have a new ballpark. And we fooled around in getting one done. Look, let's go through the history. We had my friend Bob Limone and my friend Chris Dobbins, among others, starting Choose or Lose the A's. You can see those videos. Zennie 62 YouTube, just type Choose or Lose the A's. You can see all the videos we had. Nancy Nadell came there, all that, right? That was the first.
Yeah.
Then we had Doug Boxer, great California senator, U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer's son, and Let's Go Oakland, and the 2010 effort at Howard Terminal, which failed, unfortunately, thanks to my friend Vivian Kahn, who's a great environmental lawyer. And then we had the latest one that, brought us to where we're talking about today. So we've had 3 bites at this apple about, building a ballpark. And what was the constant in all of them? The failure of Oakland government. All right? It's the one constant.
Right. The only thing I'm going to push back a little bit on is the ownership. For example, when we go back in time and we look at everything, and I'm going to go back to the Wolf days and take a look at the project and the site they had with regard to East Oakland.
Yep.
And his idea was he wanted to build a BART station. Yet when they went to Fremont and they were looking at that site, it was 6 miles away from the closest BART station. All of a sudden, BART station was no longer an issue with regard to getting that done. Wolf also claimed that it would be easier to build on Treasure Island than it would be on Howard Terminal, and deemed the project impossible. Yet here we are, 6 years later, 7 years later, whatever the time may be. All of a sudden, Howard Terminal is Howard Terminal or bust. From the public perception and what has been reported, now whether that's accurate or not, it seems like it's contradiction after contradiction after contradiction with regard to the A's really wanting to getting it done, and them asking for things that were inconsistent over the years. Would you place any credibility to that?
Yes and no, but I think part of it is, I want to say, I don't agree with Lou Wolf's occasionally gruff bedside lamb manner. I think there's a reason why he wasn't the constant in this for longer than a period of time.
Yeah, right.
But you have to remember that again, we made a number of mistakes with respect to the Athletics that, from the standpoint of any organization or any person that's owning the team, would cause them to leave. Foremost among them, in terms of time, the return of the Raiders and the literal wholesale reworking of the Coliseum for the Raiders without giving much of a thought to the Athletics, which pissed off the A's brass, and understandably so. They were treated like stepchildren. They're treated like stepchildren in terms of getting ad revenues. They're treated like stepchildren in terms of access. The east side of the Coliseum, when in its initial phase with the master lease agreement, which I have a copy of, was such that the Raiders, not the A's, were to own the east side. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No,
that's right. They changed it for insurance purposes. Yeah, the original documents had the Raiders owning 51%. So basically, the Raiders would have been the master, sub landlord.
The Alpha
the A's
tenant,
would have been, okay. So that's the first one. All right. Then you take the city's slowness in actually making any type of effort to build a new ballpark for the A's. And that's been ongoing. All right.
If the roles were reversed and this was the Raiders, do you think this deal would have gotten done?
If I take your statement to its logical conclusion and I take it as a perfect one-to-one replacement, the Raiders, what would happen with the Raiders was what would happen. They would have left.
Same thing, huh?
Yeah, because again, it's not economic development 101. You don't treat your businesses like that.
Sure.
And there are other places. Look, you got cities vying for the Super Bowl that don't even have an NFL team. You have cities vying for NFL teams all the time. You have cities that have gotten, let's forget the NFL, the mantra that sports tourism is the new economic development. So as all of these cities are getting that religion, which started 15 years ago, what's going on during that time? Oakland's treating its sports teams like this.
Yeah, right.
So basically you have to say, what's wrong with these folks upstairs? Sports tourism is a thing, and Oakland's basically killing its tourism base. That's what we did.
Zennie, you're from Oakland. There's no better person to answer this question than you. I saw your discussion with Jim Bloom, who is a former A's executive. And I've brought this up in the past and several shows with regard to securing corporate sponsorships and Oakland's perceived marketability, right? I've gotten criticized a lot because I have brought up the crime issue. Now, every city in America has crime issues. So to a point, their argument as far as the critique of that is fair, but it's undeniable that Oakland's crime issue has been publicized. I mean, everywhere you look, it's ranked as one of the top 3 cities in all of America and so forth. Do you think the the corporations and the corporate sponsors and that perception of crime was a negative thought and had something to do with all of this?
No, because of the timeline. First of all, Oakland has had a crime problem for quite some time, going back to when the manufacturing base in Oakland started to dwindle in the late 80s and then through the 90s. And then, of course, in the late 90s, we had the development of the war on drugs. And then we had the advent of these super gangs that were notorious for the crimes they were committing in Oakland, like the Norteños and others, that we finally, thanks to Oakland, my friend Oakland City Attorney, the first elected city attorney, John Russo's work on that in 2001 through 2004. Now, but what happened after the pandemic, and just a year and a half after, which carries us into middle of 2021 and then going into 2022, we had an enormous uptick in what? Crime.
Yes.
I mean, unprecedented. And it has to do with simple fact that We allowed all these businesses to close because, rightly so, because of the pandemic. But as I wrote way back in on the 20th of March of 2020, we should use tax increment financing. There we go again, to subsidize businesses that were closing. Why? So that you keep up, you can install air cleaners for COVID-19, make it so that these businesses can stay open, give the owners something to so they could do their maintenance and everything. Instead, we did absolutely nothing. So so over the first 3 months, when the PP loans were coming through, and it was okay.
Remember.
But then deterioration started. But then people who didn't losing their jobs. Why? Because businesses were closing. Why? Because of the pandemic. Because in the California parlance, they weren't getting enough assistance. All right?
Yeah.
And I don't care what anyone says. When you stop bricks and mortar country like the United States from operating, you cost the United States $9.4 trillion of economic wealth. And when it happens is what's worse, we didn't replace it. That's why we're in trouble now. Well, how we handled these things is Stupidsville. And I don't know if it's maybe, I don't know what, for whatever reason, and that's another discussion, we haven't dealt with it. We haven't. But if you bring it back, but it directly impacts everything you're talking about on a pedestrian level with the athletics in this problem.
Sure.
And so during that, we have a dramatic uptick in crime, and you have other people saying, you know what, I can make money if I get these folks out here who need some money to do these ransacking of all these places and doing these BIPs, and I'll have them do them as teams, and then I'll pay them, okay? Did you know that was going on? And a lot of people were doing it from out of state.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they made, it was another scheme to make money. And they said, well, let's pick Oakland because it's easy, and it was easy because of our own lack. Remember, it was defunding, and we had this whole defunding.
Yes, the whole defunding, yeah.
And we took $18 million of police money, put it into violence prevention.
Yeah.
That was a nice idea, except the pandemic made it not a nice idea.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
So my point is that, and then this perception is so big, money, that people then use that perception and they incorrectly think about the past before 2021. All right? The crime wasn't so bad then at the Coliseum, where people couldn't, go in and out. Did bad things happen in East Oakland? Sure. But you had the Hilton to go to. Okay. You had Francesco's to go to, which sadly closed, which was once Al Davis's favorite place to dine, a number of A's fans as well. My buddy Charlie Santana Jr., huge A's and Raiders fan, going down there, introducing me to people like John Gruden and then also Sandy Alderson with the A's. All right. My point is, it was the place to be. Crime wasn't so bad that no one wanted to be down there.
Sports has turned it seems it's just so Republican, Democrat now. Same thing, not saying one's one way or the other, but it's the last thing I would expect from sports. And that's what's kind of a little bit disappointed.
Well, it's part of society, and we're being harmed by it. And we need to stop being fooled, and we need to start realizing what it means to come together in society and stop allowing ourselves to be divided. Shang divided us. We're being divided again.
It seemed like it. It seemed like she was if you were to blame one person, it seems like she caused this big.
She did. She played the Donald Trump card.
Yeah.
She did. And that became a thing with some Democrats. They would start saying, well, you're a leftist, and you're a right wing, and that's sort of like, even with me. I said, why am I right wing? Because, and if you boil it down, it's because basically they don't understand tax increment financing or how development works. And so basically, because I'm a policy wonk, suddenly I'm like the enemy. Seriously, you listen to how they talk, some of them. And I guess I kept thinking, okay, well, keep talking.
When I began preparing for Zennie, I spent a good 10 hours looking through his videos, the history of the A's, and had it in my mind I was going to be able to have an incredible dialogue with him. Because, of course, I know everything. My initial idea was to hit him with great points and the A's lack of attendance and had a rant all prepared. And I did so. Zennie listened. He took that statement, he chewed it up, and he spit it out. At that point, I realized, damn, this dude is the real deal. The prep, the game plan went out the door at that moment. I realized I don't know jack. I had a strong belief that attendance was part of the issue in the A's departure. I was wrong, and I will admit it. I believe that ownership and executive management, John Fisher and Dave Cavell, were part of the problem and believed that the A's really didn't want to stay in Oakland. And Oakland didn't do everything they could to keep the A's. Both statements are wrong. The city of Oakland wanted the A's. They just did not know how to get it done. What's the point to all of this anyway? The opposing side will say, I am wrong, and have their hashtag FJF, and we go round and round. The bottom line is we got conned into believing something that was not true. We all did. And we have never seen both sides in an open discussion to get to the bottom of this. If I message a Casey Pratt or a Brody Brazil who have some sort of platform to urge a discussion, they will ghost me because who am I? I'm nobody. I am back where I started at zero resolution. Well, how do I make this a win-win? And all of a sudden, a light bulb went off. When I think of a representative or an emblem of the angry fans of Oakland, for whatever reason, I think of the Last Dive Bar. So I have a proposal for you, Last Dive Bar, because it is my belief that you will be the only persons that will be able to execute this or get this done. As an individual who represents and fights for the community, you should want to see this. I want Casey Pratt, Lauren Taylor, Zennie Abraham, and an individual of Zennie's choice in an open discussion on what caused the A's to leave Oakland. I want it on Brody Brazil's platform for a 60-minute live show. Brody and Casey are literally shaking right now, begging Last Dive Bar, please don't try to get this done. If you can get this done, Last Dive Bar, which you should want to, I will donate $2,000 to an Oakland charity of your choice in the name of Last Dive Bar. Now, this will never happen, will it? Let me tell you why it won't happen. You have your narrative. You have your villain. And boy, John Fisher is a perfect villain. 2, you are terrified of the truth. It screws up everything and what you have believed to be the truth. No, truth is way too inconvenient. And 3, you are not serious people. You are too busy making fake Twitter accounts that are aimed at mocking me. While flattering and amusing, it proves my point. And what will result in this is exactly what I thought. It is the same angry Oakland base that will be dropping 4-letter expletives at me for days. And don't tell me Brody cannot get the guests. He has had Lauren Taylor on multiple occasions. Casey, that's easy. And he could get both of them on next week if he wanted. The X factor is Zennie. They want nothing to do with him. And Casey, Brody, and Lauren know that Zennie will take their narrative, chew it up, and spit it out with every fact and date to back up his points. He did that today, and he does that on tomorrow's show. So last dive bar. This has turned into a win-win for me. You don't get this done, which I expect. You are who I thought you were. You get it done, we get to the truth, and the money goes to a great cause. That's actually 3 wins. Listen, I have never said I'm a John Fisher supporter, and I could be entirely wrong in this whole situation. I have said that I believe the Oakland government has gotten a pass in this whole thing. And hey, you know what? Maybe it is ownership's fault. Maybe they are 100% to blame. Well, hey, let's find out. Let's get to the bottom of it. Or was it what I believe to be true? Oakland government. Do I believe we were conned by Mayor Tao? Yes. Do I believe the responsibility falls 100% on them for their leadership and incompetence? Yes. Could I be wrong? Of course. Let's find out. I'll even write the tweet for you, Last Dive Bar. I don't expect a response from you, nor do I want one. It either gets done and I cut a check or it doesn't. Simple as that. Will someone please clip this and send it to Last Dive Bar? For whatever reason, they blocked me. At the end of the day, guys, your government conned you. They conned me. They conned all of us. Do you care? No, you don't. You got your villain. You are not serious people. I hope you prove me wrong. I really, really do. You won't. And you will not even try. Is this where I drop the mic? No, it's not. It's actually the time I thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast with host Dominic Martino and Matthew Onai. MLB fantasy draft season is here. Be the most informed fan and set yourself up for a league win. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Be sure to tune in for part 2 with Zennie Abraham tomorrow.